I'm Chris Murphy.
And I'm Jennifer Logan.
And we're the Community Theater Heroes.
We host a weekly podcast where we interview theater companies,
actors,
casting directors,
playwrights,
composers,
and other theater artists to give our listeners helpful advice, tips, and insight for their own careers.
And life in general, because we believe that live theater has the power to make the world a better place.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining in with us. This is episode 21 of the Community Theater Heroes podcast.
21!
It's a marketable year for a lot of people. It's a marketable episode for us.
Our podcast can now drink legally. Yeah!
We're here with Lola Toner today, composer,
Theater student, musician, playwright,
awesome, all around
Jack
great.
of all theater trades.
Yeah. Jane of all trades.
Jane of all trades.
Yeah, man.
That's fine.
Sound designer.
It's great. Sound designer, musician. There's a bunch of great stuff coming up.
Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Hi, I'm Lola Toner, and you're listening to Community Theater Heroes.
Yay!
Community Theater Heroes!
Oh my god!
Sign my bra!
Yeah. Grandma, stop. All right. So,
Welcome to the episode. We have Lola Toner with us.
we are
Happy to be
so
here.
excited that you are here in your polka dot dress and all your wonder and glory. Thank you for joining us. We are excited.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to be here.
Yay!
Lola, what is it that you are doing in the theater community currently?
I'm kind of a theater jack of all trades, on top of being like a student, because
You're a theater student.
I am a theater student.
Where do you go?
I go to St. Thomas University. It's in New Brunswick, Fredericton, Canada. Basically, go to Maine and drive north for a
Just
little
turn
while.
left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Just never stop going left.
Stephen King kind of area, you know.
I love me a Stephen King area.
And I go to St. Thomas University.
Why do you go there?
Oh my gosh.
I know. So many questions.
I'm just thinking.
Because screw your American universities.
No, I think I remember. I think I might have talked to you at a party or something, and there was something about like the ability to have a double major in the fields that you were looking at.
Yeah. I was actually able to do a split concentration in the English major program in drama and creative writing, which is super exciting.
And rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of get to have the best of both worlds. There's a lot of opportunities for dramaturgy and playwriting, and they do a seminar in directing, and it's all very pedagogical, you know?
Very nice.
So you just like to be super, super busy.
I like to be incredibly busy. I'm also doing a minor in history.
Oh,
Right on.
that is awesome. How are you liking university so far?
I'm loving university.
You're a freshman?
Entering sophomore year.
Entering sophomore year?
And this is your summer break.
Summer break, home for the summer.
Home for the summer.
Fantastic. And then you're also a composer?
I am a composer, yeah.
You're not even taking a break during your summer vacation.
I know, she's composing.
You've been
during
composing.
I have been composing.
You're composing
in
a nervous
a-
breakdown.
Indeed.
Am I right?
Yeah. It's an original score for Peter Weiss's The Persecution and Assassination of Jean-Paul Marat, as performed by the inmates of the Asylum of Sherrington, under the direction of the Marquis de Sade, also known as Marat Sade.
Oh, perfect.
Wow.
She didn't even take a breath.
She didn't.
She took a breath.
She did it. No, she didn't.
She took. Well, okay. So what's interesting to me, I've heard a lot of hype about this, and I've heard a lot of feedback about the music that you've been directing. I haven't been privileged enough to gain access to these like underground black market
Scratch
samplings of Lola Toner's work for this.
Yeah, we're keeping it on the down low for now, just while everything gets fully produced, you know.
You're keeping it on the download, so we're
That's
interviewing
the
you
DL
for it.
for
It's the
yeah,
DL on the
kids like
low
myself.
low.
On the low down.
The DL.
Is it, Lola, tell me, is it low key?
It's low key.
It's low key. Oh, well.
Let me just tell you, I may have heard some of it.
Okay.
And it is just woke AF.
I can confirm he has heard.
Christopher, could you literally can't even?
I couldn't even.
If you literally couldn't?
Well, she saw. I could. I was flummoxed. It was great. It was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a period piece, right? It was written in 1965?
1965, yes.
Specifically
1965.
So are you doing different genres of music to pair with this? Where are you pulling that?
Well, the mission statement for the project essentially is to take a period piece from 1965, but we also want to make it relevant today. And I'm not going to harp on...
It takes place in like the 1800s. Right?
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
It's not only written 60 years ago. It takes place.
Takes place in the 1800s. Yeah.
Wow. So anyway.
Oh, yeah. It's a combination of...
60 years ago. I just did that math. It's like, wow.
Interrupting cow.
Sorry.
Continue.
So it's like the infamous Marquis de Sade was confined in the lunatic asylum of Charrington, and he staged plays, and the revolutionary Jean-Paul Marat was stabbed in the bathtub by Charlotte Corday at the height of the terror during the French Revolution.
Spoiler.
So it's like the 1960s and the French Revolution and today, and what we want to do is make it really accessible, but we don't want it to be, mediocre. We want it to be accessible, but we want it to be innovative. We want it to be exciting. We wanted to create music that really, jeez.
And you've succeeded because after
really
I listened
engages people,
to
yeah.
the first two songs, I literally said, "It's so accessible
And engaging.
That was exciting to hear.
and it was like, yeah, that's what we were going for, and I felt really good about myself. Catching on.
So are you pulling a lot of different genres? Are you pulling one specific genre?
Tons of different genres.
Cool.
We're doing, I don't want to spoil it too much, but for example, we have some celebration music that is inspired by, mariachi.
Oh.
We have a protest song that is inspired by, Michael Jackson. We have, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, kind of 1960s era folk music.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit of, gothic rock in there, and some classic waltz. Which is kind of my area of expertise because I, all through my growing up was a classical cellist. So it's been really fun to branch back into that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So what's your process for creating a score to go with and this is kind of, it's not really generalized as a musical, right? It's just this
Play
is just
with
a score
music.
that's going to have an accompanying kind of a composition with it. So
We're going to have a lot of underscoring. Which is the main part. It's the first time you read through the script doesn't really count.
Okay.
Because this is a really difficult script to read through the first time. It's kind of like an arduous process. You're gonna want to suffer through it the first time and be shocked and be viscerally disgusted.
Yeah.
And then you reread it again and you're like, okay, yeah, this is really brilliant, actually. So I read it the first time and it was kind of a headache, but a good headache. And then I reread it and I was like, okay, so here's the parts of the script I want to focus on for the underscoring. In the back of my copy, I'll show you here, there's sheet music composed by R.C. Peasley, but we're not using it. It's like a licensing thing. You can use it or you can't use it, and we decided to write our own. But it points out a lot of the numbers that are intentionally musical numbers. And a lot of that is indicated in this script as well. And so we just kind of created a list. We created our themes that we wanted to keep coming back to. We talked about our musical motifs that we wanted to include, what kind of instruments, what kind of arrangements, how it would work with the casting. And now we're in the process of scratch and ghost writing, essentially.
yeah. How's that process working with a director, taking their vision, and then are you guys finding the musical instruments together? Or is it kind of more like they're handing the reins to you, here, why don't you figure what speaks to you as the person who's composing this?
Well, the ball's in my court, but it's not my vision. As the composer, I feel like it's my job to convey her vision.
Right.
So what I'm doing is I'm taking it from her direction, her motifs, everything she outlined. I'm doing it my way, and then I'm sending it off to her and to get a yes, a no, a maybe, tweak this or that. Lately we were working with trumpets, and we wanted to create just the right sound, and there's a lot of back and forth. I think we finally got it.
Right on.
That's so cool. I can't wait to hear.
What trumpet did you settle in on?
It's actually the sound we were eventually inspired by was I don't want to say this wrong. You know the song Havana? Camila Cabello, I think is how you say her name. It's like Havana, una, na.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a trumpet solo in that song, and we were like, that's the sound we want, so.
Nice.
That's fun. That's so fun.
Now you're also a student, right?
Yes.
So we were kind of riffing about this before we started recording. What's hot for the theater students nowadays?
Hot for the theater students. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I really speak for all the theater students.
Oh, sure you do.
You're the only one we've ever had.
Welcome, kid. Leave your coat at the door.
Oh gosh. Hamilton is ever popular.
Yes.
Consistently so, but I actually feel like there's kind of a move away from strictly popular theater of the now, which, a lot of kids, they like it and everything, but I actually I'm a Sondheim nerd right now. That's like the phase I'm at in my life. I'm in university. I have an excuse to be a Sondheim nerd. And I have got a lot of friends who are really on board with that, who are really excited about that, and they really like the classic musicals. Guys and Dolls and Damn Yankees. This kind of stuff we're always talking about. They had a lot of conversations about Streisand. So I would actually say the new is the old.
I gotcha. Well, there is a trend where you take something that's a little bit older and then you reimagine it, you reinterpret it, and then send it off. I was talking to a friend who just saw Ashland's production of Oklahoma, which is like gay Oklahoma, which they affectionately refer to as Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
And it was great.
Oh my
they wouldn't stop raving about it, and that's the only way that I think that I would be able to kind of step into that older, this is a traditional musical, if it was reimagined in a way that was more accessible.
What was so fascinating is I was in this introduction to musical theater seminar course. We had a showcase, and I went in. We all got to pick our own number that we wanted to do, our own song. I actually did changing my major from Fun Home as Alison Bechtel, which was really exciting because I was a new university student, but also newly discovered I was bisexual just the year before, so it was a really personal story to tell. Yeah. But then I looked around me and people were doing Hello Dolly, and
were they socially commenting with Hello Dolly, or were they just doing Hello Dolly?
It depends. Okay. Some people are doing it really straight, and some people were really wanting to do a new interpretation of it. And it's interesting how a lot of these pieces blend, and so you kind of got this mix right now. It's really fascinating. Yeah.
How are you enjoying university so far? You just completed your freshman year.
Just completed freshman year.
Yeah.
Absolutely
how
loving
was your
it.
freshman year? Was it scary, exciting?
It was a half a year. I actually had to start in January.
What?
Which was kind of terrifying. Just how everything tended to work out. I just didn't really have enough time. I was accepted to the school in October. And then from there it was a race because it's 3,000 miles away from home, 4 time zones, and we wanted to make sure everything was set up properly. I actually met with counselors, and the plan is that I maintain a GPA so good that they let me course overload every semester just to graduate on time.
Nice.
So I'm taking 18-ish credits a semester.
That's 18. So you're actually Hermione Granger.
Sort of, yes.
Hermione Granger.
Wouldn't be the first time I heard the comparison. I had a little bit of a crush on Ron Weasley when I was a kid, so...
I literally said this yesterday. Last night. Oh.
And what's amazing is her son is a miniature American Ron Weasley.
That's hilarious.
How dare you.
I was actually in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child in a little reading group of it last summer.
I saw it.
I played Rose Granger Weasley for that, yeah. And Craig Bowker Jr., I got to be Avada Kedavra, which was hilarious. I got sent flying. It wasn't hilarious. It was very sad, but I got sent flying across the stage and onto the floor.
I've been saying it different. Avada Kedavra. That's a bummer.
So American.
I always say it, too.
Nevada.
I know, at least 8 times.
Nevada Kedavra.
Nevada Kedavra. A dead person in Nevada.
That would be such a great name for a
Nevada
funeral home
Kedavra.
or something in Nevada.
Or a bar.
Cadaver or a crime scene.
Ooh.
Let's leave the theater world.
We're doing wrong things. We missed our calling.
Anyway, so well, that's so cool. What does your next semester look like?
Next semester is going to be really intense. I'm actually taking mostly theater courses, mostly theater and creative writing and history. Those are my focuses. So I'm doing a war and famine in the Horn of Africa history course. I'm taking an introduction to theater. I'm taking like all these year-long courses. I'm doing a advanced prose workshop in which we're specifically working on script writing, actually. Which is going to be really exciting, and research methods and all those other courses you have to do for your degree. I'm pumped.
Now, you told me recently that you had written some stuff, and they're producing it at school.
They are. Well, sort of. The artistic director of Theater St. Thomas, I reached out to him. I have a mentor of sorts where, we send each other our works, and I've always been a writer since I was like 3rd grade. I think my first story was like a love story I wrote in my diary about, the Good Ship Cross Line, of course, named after my elementary school, and like it turned into this whole thing where writing in my life really is this thing where I have lots of passions, other passions, I'm just kind of do whatever is creative I'm good at. But every time I'm at some place in my life where I feel unsure or afraid, writing just it's like Jonah and the whale. It just swallows me up and spits me back out on the beach. And I'm like, okay, writing is what I need to do. Once you find your calling, like why want to run away from your calling? So I got into the creative writing program at this school, which was a real gamble because I actually, in order to get in this last semester and everything, I had to talk to the dean of that department and send her a portfolio of my writing. And she said, hey, if I like it, I'll let you in. And she did, which was really exciting. Yeah. And so I reached out to the artistic director of Theater St. Thomas, and he read over my scripts, and he said, yep, you know what? These are all really worth workshopping. These are all really worth eventually producing as like full-length production someday. I want to see this. So let's do a staged reading. I had directors who came to me, like alumni of the school, who were interested in my scripts, and I got to pick like the veteran actors that I had worked with and seen in productions of the school. I just reached out to them and said, hey, so we're all compiling that, and it's a trio of short plays. The theme is life, love, loss. It's going to be really exciting.
That is so exciting. Cool. Congratulations. And that must be so cool to know that like these veteran actors at your school like are so interested in working on your piece.
I'm absolutely thrilled, like entirely. Just so amazing, I just kind of got adopted by the theater kids at my school, which is it's a dream come true. I always wanted to be adopted by theater kids.
Yeah. Now, I have a question about the way that they are posturing their curriculum at your university. So when I went to college, it was it was like this unspoken and sometimes very audibly spoken rule. Like, if you're gonna do anything majoring in theater, just prepare yourself to, not make a lot of money and to have other side gigs to kind of cover the expense of making art for art's sake. But since then, I mean, there's probably at least, that's been, 10 years ago, I bet there's a whole new level of, like, actually, this is possible, and this is how. Is there, like, a culture within your university that is finding a way to market a theater degree?
Well, the university itself is very... The thing is, it's a Canadian university, and there's more of a focus on the arts in Canada being funded, being important, not to mention it's an East Coast university, so a lot of kids actually say, like, I want to go to New York. Like they'll actually just legitimately do trips to New York just, to see shows. A lot of my friends are like, what? You've never been to Broadway? That's insane. Like, they can't even imagine it because it's just like an integral part. And it's actually really respected, like if I walk around with the theater kids, people are like, wow, those are the stars of the school right there. And I'm like, wow. It's completely different from, like, my environment here growing up where, like, if you did drama in high school, you were cool enough, but it was still kind of like a nerdy pursuit, Yeah.
Yeah. That is awesome.
That's exciting to know that there's a whole generation of artists out there
Well,
in
at least
Canada
in Canada,
specifically,
yeah.
that are being
Yeah.
encouraged to, and not what's the word I'm looking for? Like, turned away from it for the fear of finding something that you can make
something
a living
practical.
practical.
Well,
Like,
the way that the program is structured is that it's kind of like I think you can choose to do either English. I know I'm going the English route, or you can do fine arts, and then you can specialize in drama. But they offer like just a complete smorgasbord of courses, you know, and the independent studies, and really you can just go to the dean of the department. Like, I want to do dramaturgy. That really interests me, and I can just go to him and say, like, hey, what opportunities are there for this? And really helpful, you know.
That is
so
really
cool.
cool.
Our
So when I was in
college-
university, it was like, oh, you want to do theater? Well, get a degree in English as a backup. That way you could teach drama at the high school level.
Yeah.
Because in order to teach high school drama in high school in America, at least 10 years ago, you had to have an English degree.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of like
It's
the
bizarre to me.
yeah.
At least a bachelor's, entering in on a bachelor's level.
What's
Yeah.
pretty
You can't even stop
interesting.
without a bachelor's anymore.
Coming from like a family of teachers on my dad's side, you know, people really want to be teachers in Canada. It's not like you're paid like exorbitantly, but you know, here in the United States, I feel like it's kind of viewed as like, well, here's what I really want to do, but I'll become a teacher as a backup.
Right.
Whereas like I have a lot of friends in Canada who are like, I want to be a teacher because teachers like make an impact and you can make a living, and it's like, yeah, all right, that's really cool. There's a lot of people who are really passionate about the next generation, and I think it shows.
It's like a more respected profession and can
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Interesting.
maybe.
So you're, wow, yeah, I'm just kind of absorbing that.
My aunt and two of my aunts actually are teachers, and actually some of my friends at the school, you know, had them in school, and they're just so respected. I mean, like they came to my showcase, for example, and people were like, "Wow, teachers!" You know,
Wow.
there's a lot of culture shock, more than you'd expect, really.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, our college was like, oh, you want to major in drama? Get your HVAC certification also.
HVAC certification.
Here you go. You're a medical
fix air
billing
conditioners in
specialist.
between rehearsals. It's so true. But so you've been busy this summer composing for Marat Sade. When does that go up? You're gonna be gone, aren't you?
How are you gonna be able to see it?
School.
They're gonna film it for me or something, or I'll just see pictures. I will be back in school when Marat Sade is on, which should be in October.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Yeah. So where are you at right now in your composition work? Like, how do you have much more to go? Are you seeing the light at the end of the tunnel?
Mostly written.
Mostly.
Time to record. Having some technical difficulties with my interface. I have an SM58 microphone that is buzzing, and I'm trying to figure out where the buzzing's coming from, and it's kind of a process of pulling things apart and putting them back together, and I play a lot of different instruments, but it's a matter of getting
What do you play? I'm curious. I want to know.
like anything
Cello.
with keys. I have like a MIDI keyboard, you know, which has like a bajillion sound fonts, or I can make my own sound fonts. I play guitar and bass guitar. I played cello at like a classical level and upright bass at a less classical level. And then basically any kind of percussion you give me, I can adequately fool around on.
So you're playing. So while you're composing, you're playing all of the instruments?
All of the instruments, yeah.
Wow.
Do you just layer them on top of each other, or you have a band?
It's just me. Yeah, just me and my computer. I use Linux Multimedia Studios and FL Studios. I mean, it's not professional grade software or anything, but it's enough to have MIDI, you know, just to, and a click track so that I can always say, so I always determine like the beats per minute of my song and the key signature of my song and the chord progression, and then I just kind of go from there and see what happens.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. Wow, it's like speaking a different language for me. I'm like,
Oh yeah, super weirdly technical.
Microphone.
But you know, I come from a
Gotcha.
background of
I gotcha.
like sound design in general, so I've been in this for a while.
Let's talk about sound design.
Sure.
So you've been doing sound design for a while, you said?
Since I was about 15.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
So what goes into that for people like me, the layman who know nothing?
A lot more than you'd think. The thing about sound design, and I think I talked about this a little in my interview, is you don't want to notice that it's there. So people don't even really think about it, because if it's done right, it's not glaringly obvious. It just sounds good. It sounds perfect. You want it to be, and that takes a lot of finessing. And really for me, what got me into it was movies, actually, because I was sitting there, I really wanted to get into film for a little while, like every 14-year-old, watching like Kubrick movies and like Darren Aronofsky, and like just you'd start to notice just the way that the sound of those films is designed just puts you so on edge. Like, it makes you so uneasy, and you're not exactly sure why. Yeah. And there's actually, like, a lot of ambient noises or little noise cues that go into it. You know, I always go for the example of, there's a Twilight Zone episode called 22. And every time something bad is about to happen, there's a ticking of a clock and a glass shattering. And that's when you know, like, there's going to be a death, or that there's an omen, and... You know, if you really didn't think about it, when you think back on the episode, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's about a crazy lady who has a weird dream that comes true. But if you think about it from a sound design perspective, it, like, trains your brain. It conditions
like
you.
Pavlovian.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Pavlov is essentially just sound design, you know? Bells.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good comparison.
I was looking at listening to some interview with a sound designer, and they were talking about their process. I can't remember the film that they were working on, but it was like the overall tone of the film was unease and anxious, and so they talked about on like kind of this musically molecular level not resolving chords and taking two opposing sounds and playing them together constantly with these like violins, so that even like just cellularly you're like, this doesn't make sense to me, and I don't like it. Well, because it's not a third, it's not a fifth, you know what I mean?
Creates a
like,
dissonance.
Exactly, that's the word I'm looking for.
Well,
Can you say that a little louder?
Dissonance!
Sarah Fuller with the rim shot.
Project production manager.
Yeah, so I totally get what you mean. Like, it's an addition. It's layering in and contributing to this overall aesthetic of a project.
So are you a self-taught sound designer? What I was gonna say engineer. What did you say?
Sound designer.
Are you self-taught?
Somewhat. I haven't taken any like courses on it or anything, but I have worked with other more experienced sound designers just in the field, and I've learned a lot from my dad, who actually did music production in the 1990s for a Christian rock band. You know, that's like the origin story, but he knew a lot about it.
Audio adrenaline. News boys.
Once I got into it, I just kind of asked him about it.
Well, right on. So he kind of helped you volley back some of those ideas and helped support you in that.
Well, it really came out of I had an interest in it, and I started fooling around with it. I started taking like video clips and muting them and putting different sounds. I started doing recut trailers, actually, just for
that's
fun.
So fun.
That's so fun.
It was so. She showed me. This has nothing to do with that, but like just showing how creative she is. She showed me this random video of this music video. I forget the song.
Not 3 times. Tony Orlando.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it cuts to her dog Penelope tapping its paw on the window in rhythm. And it's so funny. Because it's so absurd and just unexpected. But I love it.
Can we link that to the content?
No, we can.
All right.
Okay, we can, I'm sure.
We totally could.
Yeah, we
Heck
will.
yeah!
You will find that in the description of this episode. Why did I
Link in the bio. Because it's a YouTube
Link
video.
in the description.
The link is up there or over here.
Like and subscribe.
So you're kind of just like this, like you said, jack of all trades theater artist. Mm-hmm. That is really cool.
Well, the thing about theater that I love so much is you can just... I mean, it's an all-encompassing art form. Like, theater draws the most creative people because you need to be doing different things. I mean, there's triple threats. I've got friends who can act, sing, and dance really well, and they dedicate their whole life to it. Me, I mean, like I said, writing always swallows me up, but I've just kind of adopted all these different skill sets because theater allows for it, which is really fantastic because there's always kind of a niche for you. wherever you go and whatever you do in theater. If you have any kind of skill, you know, set design or painting or lighting, you know, if you have an eye for fashion, if you have an eye for movement, someone's going to be like, yep, can use that. Thanks. Welcome to my team. Yep.
Yeah, especially on a community theater level, too.
Exactly.
Where it's like you're getting any help you can get. Like, you can do that. Cool.
Community theater is extremely important.
How has community theater changed your life?
I couldn't even imagine my life without community theater.
Yeah.
I'm coming from a community theater household, for one. But also just the fact that growing up, I was like a really lonely kid. I actually, when I was a little girl, I used to like write about wondering if I was an alien, just because I just didn't get the other kids. And I just was so confused all the time. Just, you know, philosophically, existentially confused. I think a lot of kids are like that. I think it comes with being creative.
For sure.
I think it also comes with being queer, which I, you know, again, recently discovered last year that I am.
Right.
And
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. Had a lot of general confusion about my identity. And theater really provides, you know, a solid identity for you in that you are doing one thing for the company, or you're playing a role. Because I've done a lot of acting, too, just for fun, mostly as a kid. And, you know, when you're Little Orphan Annie, for example, which I was in the 4th grade, you just gotta wake up every day and, like, in order to get into character, it's like the sun will come up tomorrow. And, you know, whoever you're playing, it's like you have a purpose because you have a purpose within the narrative. Like, you could be in the chorus, but the chorus is still, like, extremely important, especially in, like, you know, to come back to Sondheim, like, imagine Sweeney Todd without the chorus.
Oh, there's no way.
It wouldn't work. Ever. We need, like, everybody in there. Everyone is extremely important. Like, that's the thing about community theaters. Everyone's extremely important. Everyone has a purpose, and that's really what it provides, is a sense of purpose. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah. We're running out of time, but we're so excited to hear the final
Marat,
project of Marat and to see where your theater career takes.
I can't wait for you to hear it. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for listening.
If you want to learn more about Marat Sade or find information about tickets, go to twilighttheatercompany.org because Lola composed all of the music for the show.
As always, if you like what you heard, give us some positive feedback on iTunes. Send us a message. If you know anyone who wants to be involved and you think would benefit from being on the podcast, submit on the website, which is communitytheaterheroes.com.
And give us a call. Let's just chat.
Let's just hang out, man.
No one ever calls in
you
to the
don't
show.
call. Like, you don't
like,
write.
I get it. Like, we've...
All you do is take.
For, like, 5 months, we've been waiting for someone to call.
You never call your mother. Okay. Bye, guys.
See you guys next time.